Good morning, everybody. As always, I hope you're having a marvelous day. Welcome to another episode of Local Wisdom. I'm Justin Underwood, your marvelous mortgage guy. I'm with James Douglas, Realtor extraordinaire.
Morning.
Morning. How are you?
So far, so good.
Do you remember when we were kids and we were watching the cartoon?
I don't remember when you were a kid.
Well, it's not that big of a gap.
Okay, no.
Yeah, but when either of us were kids, I think this movie's old enough for both of us.
Okay.
We watched a movie called Robin Hood.
Yes.
And I think now, looking back, watching that movie, it was preparing me for adult life.
Robin Hood Men in Tights.
that is a funny one for sure. But, it had the famous whistle in that show.
Okay.
Can you hear it in your head?
Yes.
And but I think that show was preparing us for our today's topic.
Okay.
Property taxes.
That's exactly what everyone is doing right now.
Property taxes. This is actually something that's important, I think, for you all to
It
hear,
actually really is, and it comes up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in every transaction, it should be at least a consideration. And
It should be. And you remember in that cartoon, the sheriff from Nottingham went around and collected property taxes,
Yes.
right? The taxes that were owed, in that case, to the king.
And Robin Hood went and stole them.
Yeah, we're not
that's
even
what,
talking.
that's what we're going to do today.
yeah, I'm not Robin Hood, and I'm not advising that. But we're going to dive into property taxes. We're going to dive in, in my opinion, information that every real estate property owner should at least know about their property taxes. For the most part, people just know, hey, I've got to pay it.
Yes.
And I get this nasty little letter at the end of every year. It's colorful, and it kind of scares me.
Yes.
Right? I think it's typically yellow.
Yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, and it says sheriff.
Yeah.
It doesn't say tax assessor's office.
No, and it says you owe money.
You owe money. And
you actually do owe the money.
You do owe the money. We'll get into the sheriff part here in just a little bit. So in Louisiana, okay, because it's different wherever you're at, okay, so we're going to talk about Louisiana, and we're going to drill in. Most of what we're going to talk about is Ouachita Parish. We'll touch the other parishes for sure.
And most of the information that we're going to talk about is gathered in the same way for the parishes around Ouachita, at least.
Yeah, so it duplicates. You can use it as other places. But I'm going to sound really intelligent for a second. Let me clear my throat.
The only time this week.
This is it. Get ready for it. Ad valorem.
Ad valorem tax.
Ad valorem property taxes. I'm speaking Latin to you, James.
Yeah, I don't know what it means, but I've heard the word.
The assessed value.
Yeah.
Ad valorem taxes. So in Louisiana, ad valorem means the assessed value of a thing, in this case, property. Okay, and so your taxes, I'm going to mention Ouachita Parish here, so I'm going to title it your parish tax assessor's office. Their job is to identify the property and to assess its value.
Yes.
That's basically it. There's probably more, but that's what I'm doing.
The office does more than that, but as far as taxes go, that's their role.
Is this real estate? How much of it is it there? Is it improved? What type of improvements? What type of real estate? And then they assess the value based on millage of that location.
Yes.
And then they give that information to the sheriff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if somebody's going to come after me, might as well be the sheriff.
And so the tax assessor's office doesn't actually collect the taxes. The sheriff does.
Okay.
Because it's this thing of if you don't pay,
Then they come after you.
then it's the sheriff that comes.
Right. It eventually would get to the sheriff's cell, right?
Yeah. And so they come after the taxes and the property. I don't want to say they come after you.
Right.
I don't know that part of the law, but I do know they come after the taxes. Right. And so when you pay your property taxes, you're the owner of record.
Okay.
Okay. This is important because then you have the owner who's on the deed, but then you have the owner of record, and they may not be the same.
Okay.
Because when you're paying your taxes and you own the property and you're paying the taxes, you're the owner and the owner of record. But if for some reason you become delinquent in your taxes and somebody else pays it, well, then they become the owner of record.
Yeah, and it's a big mess at that point.
It's a big mess, gets complicated, and it's actually more than I know, but I know if that new person becomes the owner of record, pays it long enough, they eventually could, via the sheriff's office.
On the deed.
They could get a tax deed.
Yes.
And then become the owner of the property of whatever the tax deed gives them in terms of ownership.
Yeah, and there's a lot there. It's a big deal to buy up tax people that are delinquent.
Yeah, it's turning this whole thing. It feels like like an auction because you're bidding on percentages, and it's like this whole computation of
so
whoever bids the most for the least percentage actually wins. And
right, you could bid a bunch of money for 1% of the tax deed. So
yeah, and I just wanted to get the juicy stuff out of the way this morning. So there's a website called, I think it's the Sheriff's. I think it's like Sheriff's Office Sales, something like that. Yeah,
I didn't put that in, but I have the assessors.
You can go. Yeah, you can go to the Ouachita Parish Sheriff's Office, and there's a link down there. It says property and property taxes. You can click on it, and
if you've never physically been to a sheriff's sale, you should go sometime.
I tell you what, I've been there bidding, and I tell you, it was something that I really wanted. Okay, so I go to the sheriff's office.
I was with you.
You were with me. That's right. I remember you were with me. So you have to procure your funds beforehand. It's not like you can bid on the property.
It's a cash. You have to have your funds by
3 o'clock that afternoon or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah, like you got to put 10% at the time of the auction or whatever we're going to call it, sheriff's sale, that morning. And then later that afternoon, you got to deliver the rest of the funds.
The whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, and so I wanted to buy a piece of land to build a house on. I was going to tear a house down, build on it, get up there, and I bid. And it wasn't enough, and I bid some more, and it wasn't enough, and I bid some more, and it wasn't enough, and then somebody, ended up beating me out. It was very stressful, to be honest with you.
I thought it was fun. It wasn't stressful for me at all. It wasn't my money.
Yeah, that's it. But back to property taxes. So if you own your own home, and it is a single-family residence,
okay,
and you occupy it,
yes,
you're exempt from paying property taxes up to $75,000 of value.
Yeah, so let's make sure everyone heard what Justin said.
Yeah, let's do it again.
If this is your primary residence,
yep.
So this is the place you live the most out of the year, then in Louisiana, the first $75,000 of that assessed value is tax-free.
Yeah, they call this a homestead
exemption.
This is your homestead, your primary residence. If you own 4 or 5 properties, you can only claim it on one.
That's right. But you do have to apply for it.
Yes.
And so when you buy a property, that is one of the first things that needs to happen. Now, in our area, most closing attorneys will do that for you. Mm-hmm. But if you happen to, say, close somewhere maybe in Ruston and the property's in Ouachita Parish, they may not, depending on, and so you need to ask. Yeah,
you need to make sure that this homestead exemption form is signed by you and delivered to the tax assessor's office.
Yes, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and I'll give you a personal lesson. Number one, I've been around long enough that there was a time when attorneys were not doing that. Everybody had to go to the sheriff's office. the tax assessor's office. Let me correct myself, to fill out their exemption form. It's really easy. It's one form. Hey, I live there. It's my property, and boom, sign. You got your exemption. Right. Well, I closed on a house in May, and I was like, I'll just go to the tax assessor's office later. Later became December the 2nd.
Ooh.
I go in the tax assessor's office. I'm like, it's still in the calendar year. I file for my exemption. I think I'm good. The answer is no. I was not good because my mortgage company had already sent a check to the tax assessor's office, and the check didn't match what was at the time that they received it, what I was being taxed, which was without exemption.
Right.
So they sent the check back to the mortgage company because if it doesn't match to the penny, they won't accept it.
Okay.
And then it just sat dormant until February. And I started getting these notices. Yeah, and I was like, I don't know taxes. I pay it every day, every month in my mortgage. I will not pay it. So I started calling my mortgage company. They're like, well, they sent us the check back. And it became this whole thing. And it took a while, along with me getting notices that my property was going to go to sheriff's sale for taxes, not the property itself, but the taxes, until we finally worked it out.
Yeah.
So make sure you file your homestead exemption as quickly as maybe, and make sure if you do it at the attorney's office when you purchase the property, that also gets done.
Yes. If your attorney will do it for you, just let them do it.
Mm-hmm.
You will sign the document at the closing table. It will get filed with everything else, and it will be done. Let them do it.
Yeah, let's talk about the why. Okay, so in the state of Louisiana, as it was taught to me, the reason this $75,000 tax exemption exists is because they didn't want to tax let's say a widow who's on a fixed income out of her property.
Yeah.
And so, but you can't hand pick every year who should or shouldn't get the tax exemption. And so it's a blanket exemption across the board of the first $75,000 of value. So if you are, low to moderate income and your house is, say, under $75,000, then you're exempt from taxes.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. And even if it's worth more than that, the large burden of the first $75,000 is exempt. So if it's an $85,000 house, you're only paying $10,000 property taxes.
When you said about the widow, it did ring something in my head that I wanted to make sure we talked about. Was if someone is 65 years old or older, they can file to permanently fix their taxes.
So they can freeze it.
They can. That's what they call it, a freeze. And so from the day you turn 65, you probably should get down to the tax assessor and apply for your freeze, and your taxes will not go up.
Oh, beautiful.
They will not reassess as long as you own that property.
Yeah, and something else for you to call your local parish tax assessor's office about is the potential for a double exemption for military servicemen.
Yes.
Who, may, based on their, status, can get a double exemption, typically with a disability that was, received during service.
Yeah. It is based on either disability or income. And so if you're military, active, or if you're a veteran, it's worth looking into.
Yes, and this is not something your lender or your attorney can do for you.
No.
Because you have to own the property at the time of going to see if you can get the double exemption. So your lender can't do it in preparation of purchase, and the attorney can't do it at the closing table. So you got to finish the purchase and then go to the assessor's office.
Is that something the VA could help with?
I would hope so, but I can't say that I know that specifically. But I think that the first thing to do is reach out to the parish tax assessor's office and find out what are the qualifiers or documentation of things that they need to see if the double exemption exists.
And those qualifications can be found on their websites, and just OP assessor.
You mean oppressor?
Oppressor. That's what it looks like.
It looks like oppressor.
It does look like that when you type it out, but it's opassessor.com for Ouachita Parish Assessor. Lincoln Parish is lpassessor.com.
Yeah.
And so all of this is on their website. There's a nice little search feature down there. You can go look up properties and all too. So.
Yeah, you can even do some estimated tax
Man,
calculators.
you can do all kind of stuff.
That sounds fun, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, it's me.
Justin actually uses that a lot.
I do every day.
I use I do look up the properties a lot and just see what last year's taxes were.
Were you about to say the free map service?
It is free map.
Is it really free?
For me.
It's only free if you don't own property.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
That's
But
true.
so look, these property taxes that you pay, whether you kind of envision the sheriff from Nottingham or, Miss Stephanie, sweet Miss Stephanie, right? Either way, what's going on is this money is being used to help improve infrastructure, provide protection for our schools. That's what this money is being collected for. And so something else for you to know. You may live in one parish, but depending on where you live determines the millage rate. And it can be a lot higher or a lot lower based on that location. So, example, if you live in the city limits, you have parish and city taxes.
Unfortunately, yes.
Both, right? Yep. If you live outside the city limits, you just have parish, but the millage changes based on where you live.
Yes.
The biggest example is going to be the Swartz area, what we call Ward 1 and Ward 2. Ward 1 and Ward 2 are the most expensive millage areas in the parish for parish taxes. It's actually quite a bit. And when you're looking at houses in the $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 price range, that starts to add up and what that cost is for a year and in your monthly payment.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, some of these you may be paying $2,000, $3,000 a year in taxes, and that's another $200-$300 a month.
Yeah.
And so
A lot.
it goes into your final mortgage payment.
Not only the final mortgage payment, but it impacts the total funds needed at closing.
Yeah.
We like to use the word closing costs, and that's going to be a whole episode for another day. But
Yes.
that's an amount due at closing. It's not technically closing costs, but it increases the total funds required to close.
Yeah, so you have to start your escrow with taxes for the year. And,
Exactly.
And they're going to take out estimated taxes for the rest. So if you close in February, it's going to be a much bigger tax bill for you that particular closing.
You know what I think surprises a lot of people?
What's that?
When I'm going through their, they're like, people call and they're like, well, we're looking over here, looking over here, looking over here, and we're going through their monthly payment estimates. City of West Monroe, the city limits, City of West Monroe, is the cheapest in the parish.
Well, I'll be.
Combination of both parish and city taxes.
Okay, there you go.
Fascinating to me.
Yeah, that's only about 13,000 people, though.
Yeah, it's not a lot of houses to choose from.
Right.
It's a lot tighter area than maybe you might realize.
Yeah.
But still, I thought that was
That
awesome.
is interesting. I did not know that. Thank you for
Yeah.
making
With all-
me more knowledgeable.
With all that's going on in the city of West Monroe, well, it seems like they're doing a decent amount with a little bit.
Sure. And let's be honest, we're not talking about massive amounts.
No,
difference.
we're talking like $15 a month difference
Right.
for the same
It's-
house.
Right. But it does add up. I
Yeah.
mean, when you start putting together a monthly payment and, you talk about your interest and principal for
Yeah.
sure, but then you talk about insurance and we talk about MIP or MIP and then we talk about your
Yeah,
this
four
taxes.
things that go into most monthly payments.
Right. It starts adding up, and it could push somebody down to a lower home if that's the case. I mean,
Town of Sterlington's the most expensive in the parish.
that doesn't surprise me, actually.
Yeah.
They've been in need of taxes, and so
They're building infrastructure,
Yes.
and it's a large area, not just Town of Sterlington, but I'm talking about what we call Ward 1.
Okay.
It's a large area, and it's like the fastest growing, so infrastructure takes a lot
Yeah.
for a lot of people, and so that impacts the taxes. They're building new schools like constantly up there,
Well, they need them.
and all of that is factoring into where the millage rate is, and so there's reasons for it, and there's a return for it,
Sure.
but that's what's going on there.
Okay. Well, that's really, really helpful because everyone that owns a property needs to realize that you're going to have taxes coming. If your home is over $75,000 in Louisiana, you're going to have taxes coming. So what should someone do, Justin, when they get that little yellow piece of paper at the end of the year?
Yeah, it's a great question. So if you already have a mortgage and you're paying your taxes in your escrows, by the way, escrows is a forced savings account. Okay, that's what it is. We're forcing you to save it,
Yes.
and then we're going to pay it for you. Okay, and we being the loan servicing company. Okay, whoever's servicing the mortgage.
Because they have a vested interest in making
Yeah,
sure you pay
'cause
that.
Guess what? Old Sheriff of Nottingham doesn't care who owns it, who's collecting it. They want to make sure it's paid.
Yes.
And so they don't care if ABC Mortgage over here has a mortgage on the property. If the taxes aren't paid, they're going to sell the ownership of record.
Yeah.
And so as a measure of protection for the loan servicer, they're going to make sure that the taxes are paid every year.
Absolutely. And they should.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with insurance, and that'll be another conversation for another day. But what they should do is they get this notice, and it feels like you haven't paid it, okay?
You haven't yet.
Possibly. Two ships passing in the night, right?
Right.
And so, because there's a way in which the loan servicer is made aware of it. It's kind of interesting, by the way. But they're made aware of it as well, and then they send the payment.
Yes.
But you as the owner of record, will always get a tax notice. And it'll always go to the address of the owner of record at the sheriff's office for tax assessments.
Yes. So Justin just talked about that, but your address doesn't have to actually match the property address.
No.
And so if you go to OPS, or I keep saying OPS, opassessors.com, and you start looking at properties,
Yeah.
It doesn't match all of it. If somebody
There's two
owns
addresses. There's the property address and the owner of record
owner
address.
of records address.
You want to make sure that the address, the mailing address of the owner of record is where you want the tax notice to go.
Correct.
This, by the way, this address there is also used for other things like jury duty, which I just discovered
Okay.
because I did not get my jury duty notice.
Ooh. Not good.
Which, by the way, everybody, next Monday I have jury duty, and therefore the local wisdom episode for Tuesday is in jeopardy. You might want to look for a guest.
Okay.
But here's what you
I'll
should
put
do.
both my personalities on.
Right, good. You should take that notice and you should go online and check your escrow account and spend the month of December just checking for that to make sure that the payment they paid matches the payment that's on the assessor's record. If it's not, because taxes do change, just know you're up for an escrow analysis, typically in February, where your payment will adjust based on the new tax amount.
Yes. And so we do, even though you may have a fixed rate mortgage, your monthly payment may change from year to year based on insurance, taxes.
Yeah, so to be frank, your monthly payment isn't just your mortgage payment.
Correct.
Your principal and interest, the portion of the payment that repays the loan and pays the bank the interest, that likely for most of you will never change and cannot change.
If you have a fixed rate mortgage.
If you have a fixed rate mortgage, which the vast majority of people do.
Yes.
Okay. But your insurance and property taxes, they're not controlled by the mortgage company.
No.
They're controlled by the parish in which the property resides in the city, and the insurance company controls the insurance. I mean, we're actually dealing with an issue right now with insurance where insurance companies are leaving the state.
Yes, we're having a hard time.
And they're not, I mean, they're leaving the state, and the homeowner who's been paying into escrow now has to scramble and find insurance.
Yeah.
And so their insurance is changing, which affects their monthly payment, the overall monthly payment. But the principal and interest doesn't or should not change for most people if you have a fixed rate mortgage.
That is true. So, all right, Justin, wrap this up for us.
Oh, gosh. Well, here, I'm going to wrap it up. So just know that the Ouachita Parish has done a good job in updating their website. So make sure you go to their website. It will take you to a third-party website where you can actually do, more advanced searches for properties. You can do a map search, which is really cool. You can pull up the aerial map, and this is for Lincoln Parish, Union Parish, Ouachita Parish, Morehouse Parish.
You have to pay for some of their information. But it's the same system.
Yeah, they've all kind of have chosen to use a similar system.
ACT data source.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And you can zoom in and look at the property. You can look at reasonable boundary lines. It's not a survey. You get a general idea of where the boundary lines, and as it relates to the parcel number that connects to the assessment.
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of good stuff that you've already paid for that's there available for you to view, to be a better property owner, to understand your neighbors, maybe understand, your investments and things of that nature.
And you should know that, that information is public knowledge for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Your information is there.
So you're driving around, you're like, who owns that? You can go see.
Legally, it is available to you.
It's public records, baby.
It is public records. So, and that's available OPAssessors.com
Oppressor.com.
and LPassessor.com.
No, .org. It's .org, I think.
.org? Okay.
I think it's .org. Anyway, Google Ouachita Parish Tax Assessor, Lincoln Parish Tax Assessor, Union Parish Tax Assessor, and you'll find it.
Yes. And so, in some of those more rural assessors' offices don't have that public on the web, but it is available to you if you contact them.
I think if some of our friends from the assessor's office were here today, they would say pick up the phone and call them.
Absolutely.
They'd love to answer whatever questions you have.
Having worked with appraiser, they have to pick up the phone and call all the time, and there's not a single one of them that isn't readily willing to help out. So our assessors do a really good job with that. They had a lot of work, a lot of things to do, and so I'm glad that they're on top of it. So.
Well, I'm sure we didn't cover everything.
No, we absolutely did not cover everything, but
we might have to do a follow-up episode. But we got to do a top 5. Here we are.
Yes, and so all right. This is a good top 5.
Okay.
Last week we had sold 29 homes.
Yeah,
we only sold 36 this week.
Whoa, that didn't jump up like I thought it would.
No, but number 5 this week is in Delhi.
Old Delhi.
Yeah, not Delhi,
Delhi?
As in the city in India.
Okay.
This is Delhi, Louisiana, on Apache Trail. It's number 5, $285,000.
Apache Trail, is that on a golf course or the water?
It's on the water.
Okay.
It's on water. So it's a nice. It's actually got a nice boathouse.
That's good from here.
Yeah, no, it's really really nice. It's a nice home. It fits with Delhi. It's even got solar panels. I
that.
believe we're probably going to see a lot more
I'm gonna tell
solar
you,
panels.
I woke up this morning seeing that listing, thinking, "Boy, I sure could use some solar panels right now."
Hey, well, the sun's been out, so it's really good while the sun's out.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's number 5.
Who's our
in
agent?
Jacob Duvall.
Jacob, good job, brother.
Yeah, good job, Jacob.
From French Realty.
Yes. No, not from French Realty.
No, I'm thinking of Jacob Malone. My apologies. Jacob Duvall from
Jacob Duvall owns his own company.
owns his own company, yeah.
Duvall and Company.
Good job, Jacob.
Yeah, good job. All right, number 4 is new construction in Calhoun
Okay.
on Pine Lake Road. It sold for $290,910.
It's very specific.
That's exactly what it was listed for.
Okay, so quick question. So is the price per square foot a round number?
It is within decibels of being exactly $132 a foot.
That feels like they're just like, whatever 132 a foot is, boom, that's going to be our price.
It could be. We have a friend that made a post a couple, and I hope that he hears this and knows that I love him and joke with him about it. But I didn't say anything on his post about it. But he talked about everything should be round numbers. It should be nearest $5,000. That's all real estate should ever be. But the actual data shows us that houses that are listed like this with exact numbers actually tend to get closer to asking price than numbers that are more
Is it just
round.
a psychological?
That's what they believe. It's a they think that people look at it and say, there's a reason why they chose that number.
They must need
and
it.
they either need it or there's a reason why it's exactly worth that exact amount.
It creates
And so-
additional questions that wouldn't exist
Yes,
otherwise.
and so the data would show us that those homes get closer to asking price than those that are with rounded numbers.
You could do some branding, like if
I could be that guy.
yeah, like if you just if it was always ending in 318,
Oh yeah.
and they could be like, I know that's a James
Okay,
Douglas
somebody
listing, but it is in
out
318.
there take and run with that. Justin just gave you free marketing advice.
There we
go. So that was number 4. Did I say? Oh no, Sean Sullivan with Sirico Realty.
That's a new one to me.
So Sean, good job.
Made the top 5.
And there are more homes available in this. So if you're looking for a new construction home, that's a nice little area. All those homes are going to be really nice in there. So
Awesome.
all right. Number 3, we're moving to Ruston. Ruston's been out of
Okay.
the top 5 for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And so we're back in North Ruston in the French Quarter subdivision. Sold for $322,000
Nice.
on Decatur.
Decatur. No, well.
Well, yeah, I know the New Orleans Decatur quite well. So. But that's a nice subdivision, and we'll see.
Yeah, not
that
far from
subdivision.
Cedar Creek, north of the interstate.
Yeah.
Who's our realtor?
Tammy Alexander.
Good job, Miss Tammy.
Yes, good job, Tammy. All right, number 2, sold for $415,000. It's in North Monroe on Toulouse Circle.
Back to Monroe.
Yes, Monroe's going to dominate. They got number 1 and number 2 this week.
So what price are we at again?
This is $415,000.
So we're inching back up into some bigger numbers.
Yeah, this is more normal what we've seen
For our
top 5. I believe that $285,000 may have been the lowest that we've seen in the top 5.
Lowest top 5. Got it.
Yeah. So, but this home, a unique backyard. It's got this walking path that they have stepping stones on. It's kind of it was a cool house.
I tell you, in my experience, sometimes it seems like the second owner gets the best deal.
Oh yeah, because the first owner put
Tons
sweat
of
equity
money.
in it. Yeah.
Tons of money that, doesn't actually pop that appraisal.
Yep.
The walking stones and steps like that doesn't necessarily, send that value up because it doesn't make the house any bigger or change the location.
Right.
But I have a sense of how much it cost.
Oh, yeah. And another thing, like this owner, the seller, really loved this property, probably kept it up.
Yeah.
Whoever buys it is going to have to keep up the work.
Yeah. Work.
That backyard in that particular home is really nice, but it's going to take work to keep it in that condition.
Yeah.
So whoever bought that home, congratulations. I hope you have a lot of time in your backyard.
2 questions.
Yes.
Who is our agent and how many days on market for this one?
This one was days on market 80.
Mm-hmm.
So it did sell below asking, and asking price started at $475,000.
That is quite a bit of difference.
And at the time of the contract, the asking price was $425,000.
And they went to
and
$415,000. And what does that put us at as a price per square foot?
That $187.
Still strong. And who's our agent again?
This is Gerald Tenori.
Gerald Tenori.
With John Ray.
And I think that, and it's easy to react to numbers as if they're real life in the sense of like you understand. I don't understand everything that was going on there, but what I have a sense of is there is some price correction going on.
Yes.
And in the sense of, hey, that above premium, that's coming down to reality, so to speak.
Yes. And if you want to hear more, last week's with us, we talked a lot about those type of issues, but we are seeing people make corrections faster than normal. So we talked about you were getting instant feedback from the market.
Yeah, there's still not enough houses, so if it's not under contract quickly, you're likely overpriced.
Right. And so for a house to drop over $50,000 in 80 days, 3 years ago, we would not probably have seen that drop that drastically that quick.
Right.
And so I believe that a lot of sellers and selling agents or listing agents are just keeping their thumb on it, and they're doing a good job. So good job, Gerald.
Yeah.
So all right, number one.
There we go. Number one, baby.
Yes. One day we're going to have real drums and horns in here. But number one, we're in North Monroe on Island Drive.
I just had a conversation yesterday. What is the best street in Monroe? And that's an episode for later.
Sure. And there's going to be heavy debate on this. But
Island Drive is up there.
Yes.
And it reflects in this sales price.
$885,000.
Goodness.
Started list price at $974,500.
Okay, so not quite $100,000.
Not quite, so $90,000 less than asking, but that's less than 10% drop.
What is the price per square foot on something like that?
That's $200.
200 is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. 200 on Island Drive has been true for a long time. It's not new.
Right. No, this is a 4,400 square foot house. This is a really nice home, but it's in a really nice location. Has mature trees.
It is quintessential North Monroe.
Yes.
It's the street when you're like, if you're like me, honey, let's go look at nice houses and Christmas lights.
Sure.
We always drive down Island Drive.
Oh, yeah. No, if you want to look at nice, just in that whole neighborhood, just drive around. It's pristine.
Yeah.
It's really nice. It is on water. It's on the bayou.
Wait a minute. So the water's across the street, though?
No.
Are you sure?
Well, it's on the property.
Yeah. So Island Drive's very interesting.
Yes.
So
across the street from the house.
Behind you is, Park Ute and those neighborhoods.
Yes.
In front of you is Island Drive, so in your front yard, and then across the street is the water. And so
they own across the street.
They own across the street. Yes, very interesting how they have water. The waterfront access is in the front yard.
Yeah. So it's a nice home. Yes.
Well, congratulations. Who's our realtor?
Kathy Van Veckhoven.
I should have known.
Yeah.
Miss Kathy Van Veckhoven. Congratulations, Miss Kathy.
Yeah,
you are back again in the top 5.
Yeah, she's been there more than once.
Special lady.
Yeah. So, all right. So, from today, buy a house on Island Drive and pay your taxes.
Pay your taxes. That's right. Good stuff. Yeah.
So, well, awesome. Thank you, Justin, because you actually taught me some things today I actually realize.
Yeah.
And so I hope that it was beneficial for
Yeah.
those that listen.
Yeah, me too. Look, there's more that we could say on taxes for sure. We might have to have one of the employees at the Ouachita Parish Tax Assessor's Office come sit down with us one day. I'm sure there's more that we all could learn together.
Absolutely.
But, this has been another episode of Local Wisdom. We will be back to you next Tuesday. I may be in the seat. I may be serving my jury duty time. Either way, we'll bring you some local wisdom. If you have any questions, if you need a mortgage, I'm at Origin Bank. Would love to take care of you. If you need a real estate agent, real estate professional, Mr. James Douglas at Coldwell Banker. But as always, I hope you have a marvelous day.
We'll see you next week.